The Network Marketer's Guide to Avoiding Insanity. Module 1, Why Should I Bother Carrying On with a Business? Lesson 5, Goals are bad. There is a famous study that supports the value of goal setting. You might have heard about it. Tony Robbins, you've definitely heard of him, talks about it in his books and seminars. Class of 1953 study at Yale University, which followed the lives of a Yale graduating class over a 20-year period. At the end of that time, the 3% of graduates who had set clear written goals had out-earned the other 97% of the class combined. Now that's pretty impressive, yeah? However, various other authors, including Michael Neill and Oliver Burkeman, doing research on connected projects, could find no evidence of this study taking place. Not at Yale, Princeton, or any other major American university. So the question was put to Tony Robbins where he got the story from. And Tony said, well, I got it from Brian Tracy, another well-known American motivational speaker. So the question was put to Brian Tracy, and he said he got it from Zig Ziglar. And when Zig Ziglar was asked him the same question, he said, oh, I got it from Tony Robbins. See, this story appears to be just that, a story. But of course, we now live in a culture where it's all about goals. You have to set a goal for this, set a goal for that. Health, wealth, happiness. Get a goal, write it down, otherwise nothing will work for you. And the network marketing industry is about little else. Now, goals are powerful, yes, but they can also do harm, which is what I want to show you today. I also want to show you how to do it differently, but for time constraints, that will be in Module 2. So, okay, what do we know about goals at the moment? That's right, they have to be SMART. Specific, measurable, agreed upon, realistic, and time-bound. I always find with SMART, there always seems to be disagreement between what the A and the R actually stand for, but in a nutshell, it's a future-based result. Okay, so let's have a look at a real-life goal and the impact that it actually had. But warning, I'm about to use an English sport reference. For those of you who don't have any interest about this context, I make no apologies. You do not need any prior knowledge, and if you hate sport or the English, get over yourself. Just use the opportunity to look for the learning points. Look, I will bring other examples, but sport is a great way to illustrate things like this, so just go with it, okay? Right. In 1999, in the Rugby Union World Cup, England exited the competition embarrassingly early. The relatively new coach, Clive Woodward, found his job under threat and he had to fight to keep his position. So he made a promise and he set a goal. England to win the Rugby World Cup in 2003. So are we happy that this has the hallmarks of a good goal? It's certainly a future-based result. Is it specific? Well, yeah, it's pretty damn specific. Is it measurable? Well, we'll certainly know whether it works or not. Did everybody agree upon it? Absolutely. Was it realistic? Well, yeah, it's a top-tier team in the competition. Of course it's realistic. And of course it was time-bound. Absolute date set in stone. There's no argument as to when it's taking place. So, absolutely perfect. Iconic definition of a goal. Now, what does that actually mean? If we look at a graph of England's performance over time, over a 4-year period, England needed to go basically from bottom left to top right. So they knew what they wanted to do. They developed a proper plan that they put in place. So they knew what their journey was to get between the 2 points. All standard goal practice. And through the next few years, they looked to pursue that plan. Now, for those people who do know something about sport, what happened here? That's right, they did it. 22nd of November 2003, Johnny Wilkinson with a drop goal in the last minute of extra time. Sporting history, England won the World Cup. Hooray! So there we are. Goal set, goal achieved, everybody happy. What's the problem? Well, the interesting thing is what happened afterwards. Crash and burn. Everything that was created collapsed. Their annual win percentage instantly dropped from 94% to below 50%, and pretty much stayed that way for the next 13 years. To underline it, in 2015, in the Rugby World Cup, where England were the host nation and had home advantage, England exited the competition embarrassingly early. And this pattern of up and down is replicated so many times. If you look at the England football team winning the World Cup in 1966, next match, they lost to Scotland. Andy Murray won Wimbledon, didn't win another Open for 3 years. At a smaller level in any match like football, the most likely time to concede a goal is just after you've scored a goal. So let's look at some non-sport examples. Exams, whatever the last set you took were, how long before you could face even learning again? Go onto Google and type in the Oscar curse and see how many careers have plummeted after they win the big prize. Holidays and Christmas, big effort as you approach and then hard to get started again. Or just in general, sales targets. Hit the big one, then relax. And this pattern is so very common in network marketing. How many times have you seen someone work incredibly hard to get to that next level, really want to achieve? They hit it, and then they freak out when they get there and watch everything fall away. Do you recognize this pattern now? See, the problem is, of course, as a society, we only look at this bit, the point where the goal is reached. Ever since we were kids being read fairy tales, what happens at this point? That's it. They all lived happily ever after, with no real thought about what actually happens. You see, goals do work on a short-term basis. Of course, you can keep setting goals, achieve one, set the next, achieve that one, and another. Keep building, next sales target, next objective. But you're just replicating lots of these patterns, and over time, it's exhausting. It's like drinking Red Bull. It gives you a boost, but over time, you can't rely on it. Because it gives you a burst of energy, but that inevitably leads to a crash. If you've ever had a sales pattern that goes up and down over time, now you know why. And all this, of course, is when you actually achieve the goal. What happens when you don't make it? Frustrations, annoyance, you beat yourself up and feel bad like you failed. And when your bonus structure is all about hitting targets and goals, anything other than complete success is pretty demotivating. Of course, this assumes that you actually wanted to get there in the first place. Is it actually your goal? Or is it somebody else's? I remember an early interview with Andy Murray. As a kid, he was never bothered about Wimbledon. He's Scottish. But the pressure that was put on him by the public suddenly made it seem important. And that's what created the stress around him when he was trying to win Wimbledon. Then again, maybe it is your goal, but things aren't actually what you expect. Has anyone ever craved something, worked hard for it, and then when you got it, actually it wasn't as good as you'd hoped? Or you do like it at the start and the thrill fades? You know, a new car or similar toy that quickly becomes just another thing. An amazing holiday destination that's, yeah, it was good, but, you know. They say in life, never meet your heroes. I think this is a similar kind of thing. Sometimes getting what you want is not actually what you wanted. When I failed my driving test as a teenager, the pain of failing was much worse than the pleasure of passing. See, the common pattern for thinking is, if I get this, then I'll be happy. Well, that means by definition that you're not happy now or at any time before. And the truth is, if you're not happy now, then you'll probably find a way of not being happy there either. In fact, if we extend that concept a little bit, with the standard goal model, where on this graph can you actually look at it and say, boom, that's it, I've been successful? That's right. Only when you hit your goal. Now, if we keep things simple, which is how the brain likes it, by the way, that must mean that every point before this point, you failed. Every day, you're a failure until eventually you succeed. So, goals. They demoralize you because you're a failure every day. The longer that you don't hit that big figure, the more painful it gets. If you do hit them, it may not be as good as you thought it was going to be. And even if it is, the benefits are actually very short-lived. So in short, goals are bad. There is, of course, an alternative. Now, I'm keen to make sure that these lessons don't go on for too long because I want you to be able to absorb the information in each one. So in Module 2, I'll go through what that alternative is and what you can do differently in order to drive yourself forwards every day. Well, that's the end of this little session, a brief introduction into the sort of thing that we're doing on the Network Marketer's Guide to Avoiding Insanity. Hopefully you've got some use out of this session, picked up some tips, and if you are hungry for more, then I would obviously encourage you to book on to Module 1, which is now available. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can go straight there right now. If you look in the top left-hand corner of your page, you will see a button that says "Go My Dashboard." You click on that, and then in the middle of the next page, there will be an option to click on View More Courses. And that will give you access to all the courses that are currently available. Module 1 is obviously up and live, so just click on that and it will take you through the registration process. If you forget, or if you want to have a little think about it for a little bit longer, then we will send you an email with a link directly to the landing page. And of course, if you'd like to know a little bit more information, it's probably worth me spending a couple of minutes just explaining what is actually in Module 1. Module 1 is about basics, some of the most common fundamental issues that people face that can have an impact on whether they carry on with the business or even start it in the first place. Future modules will deal with things like the structure of the business and how that creates stress on the team member, or subconscious blocks that can cause us to self-sabotage. But Module 1 is about pure fundamentals. These may not be things that you necessarily face right now, but you will either have somebody in your team that is trying to deal with one of these, or it may be something that crops up for you in the future. Either way, there will be some critical points in here that you will find useful, as I say, either for yourself or for one of your team members going forward. Lesson 1 is the absolute base question, why carry on at all? And it looks at the fundamental reason as to why you do what you do. Once you've got that core, you can then drive everything off of that, and that's why this is one of the most important lessons in there. Even if it's not an issue for you right now, you need to know the answer to these questions. Lesson 2 is relevant if you have another half who doesn't quite get what you're doing, hasn't bought into the business in the same way you have. And this is a massive issue across the industry. It's very common. Yes, often you'll get situations where you've got both couples in the business, or obviously some people who don't have another half, but where there are this mismatch between two people, it causes massive problems both at home and in the business. So some fundamental points in there. Lesson 3 is around the concept of saturation. Everywhere you go, you meet other people doing similar stuff to you or exactly the same. How do you deal with that? How do you get around that? And lesson 4 is sort of the flip side of that, and it's the concept of scarcity, I guess. It's very difficult to grasp this concept of abundance. There's sort of the concept of infinity that we try and tap into. So there's some nice little tricks in there to think about things differently. And lesson 5, of course, is essentially the one you've just seen about goals being bad for you and actually having a negative effect on your progress. Now, when you book onto Module 1, you don't get access to all these videos straight away. They will be released to you on a weekly basis. So when you register, you get access straight away to Lesson 1 and an introduction into the program. And then Lesson 2 will become available 7 days later, Lesson 3 7 days after that, and so on. The reason for this is quite simply that I want you to absorb the information within each lesson. Make sure you get a chance to actually take it on board and actually carry out some of the actions that you'll be set to integrate it into your day-to-day activities. So when you register on Module 1, there will be a lot more than just the video that you've seen today. So obviously there will be a video, and that's a very useful way for people to take that information on, and a lot of people like it, but it's not for everybody. So every lesson will have, as well as the video, there will be an option to download the audio, get it down as MP3, get it onto your smartphone, listen to it into the car, wherever, whatever works for you. And there will also be a transcript of the lesson as well. So if you're the sort of person who likes to highlight the words and stick things on the wall, then that option is there. So whatever your learning style, there is a preference. Your preference can be covered. And as sort of intimated earlier on, for each lesson there's actually going to be a worksheet that you need to go through. It will make you think about the learning points in a slightly different way. It will embed the learnings, and it will actually get you taking some actions to move forward. Now, at some point in the future, they're not planned yet, but what I want to be doing later on is to actually run some webinars which will tie into the subjects that we're running. It will give people an opportunity to, again, hear what other people are doing, how they're integrating it into their business, and of course to ask questions about their own issues, how to adapt them for their own personal circumstances, because ultimately everybody is different. Everyone's got their own specific stuff going on, so sometimes you just need to tweak things a little bit for their specific situation. So that's a quick run through on the Module 1. On top of that, if you want to go to Facebook and type in the details there, search for the Business Enjoyment Coach. I deal with all sorts of businesses, not just people in network marketing, so there's more videos, more content coming on there, things of a different nature. A lot of stuff is relevant to lots of different people, so have a look and see what you think. But go there and like that page, it'd be very much appreciated. So I think that's about everything there. Thanks once again for taking the time to watch this video. Again, I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you're hungry for more, then hopefully I will see you on Module 1 in the very near future. Thank you very much.